Hi, freshmen. We're going to take some notes today. So this is going to start a little mini unit, which I like to call the Zeitgeist mini unit, which we'll talk about today. So the instructions told you to open up a Google Doc or to create a Google Doc on this assignment. And then we're going to be taking some notes. You can call your notes A Tale as Old as Time. And then primarily you're going to be writing down things that are underlined. And you can go back and rewatch the video as much as you want. So there we go. All right. So you're going to write at the very beginning, Romeo and Juliet is a timeless story. Shakespeare didn't even make up Romeo and Juliet. He actually got Romeo and Juliet from another book called The Tragical History of Romeus and Juliet, written by Arthur Brooks, which was published before him. This is one of those stories that it's an archetypal story. It comes up over and over and over and over and over. And we see Romeo and Juliet continuously throughout time. He's just produced the most famous version of Romeo and Juliet. But there's lots of other versions of this exact same story. So you're going to write down that Romeo and Juliet always has been and will continue to be extremely popular. It is a very popular story. People really like this idea of two people who are supposed to hate each other, falling in love, and fixing the world by love. They really like that idea. And like I say down here, a lot of people consider that Romeo and Juliet is the archetypal love story, and that every love story that ever has existed or ever will exist from here on till forever has something to do with Romeo and Juliet. They have some reason to thank Romeo and Juliet because Romeo and Juliet has inspired every love story ever told, ever. You're going to write down that it owes its popularity to universal themes. And every generation, it seems like, every 10, 15 years, Romeo and Juliet gets remade and re-envisioned for the current time and people. And that's what we're going to be looking at, is we are going to look at how Romeo and Juliet gets reinterpreted over and over and over again. So there was a version in the 1950s. There was a version in the 1960s. There wasn't so much one in the 1970s. There was one in the 1980s. There was one in the 1990s. There's one in the 2000s, right? There was one in the 2010s. There's always a version of Romeo and Juliet that is being produced because it is so popular and it just keeps getting remade over and over and over and over. So there's nothing to write down on this one. Like I say here, every time they remake Romeo and Juliet, they try to do something a little different. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it modern so that it connects to the audience that's watching it. So a movie produced in the 1990s is very different than a movie produced in the 1950s. And so, like I say at the bottom, we can learn a lot about a time period by looking at their production of Romeo and Juliet. So we can look at history through the lens of Romeo and Juliet and what this version of Romeo and Juliet is trying to do. This is the most important thing that you want to write down. So that word that I used at the beginning, the zeitgeist. Zeitgeist is the defining spirit or mood of a particular period of history as shown by the ideas and beliefs of the time. A way to simplify that is the cultural climate of an era. So this is what we're going to, and I'm going to be using this term all the time, zeitgeist, zeitgeist, zeitgeist. So we're going to try and figure out, okay, what is the zeitgeist of the 1950s? What is the cultural climate of that era? And then we're going to look at a version of Romeo and Juliet produced in the 1950s. And we're going to try and talk about what that movie is trying to say about the 1950s. We're going to do something very similar with the 1960s. And then, as part of your final, you're going to be doing one of these with the 2010s. There is a version of Romeo and Juliet that just came out. There's a version that's being produced right now. So there is a couple versions that's going to be for the 2020s already, and we're only in 2021. But we're going to focus on 2010s. because I think that'll be easy because it's recent past. So this is the most important thing, is zeitgeist. So when I say zeitgeist, I need you to know what I'm talking about. All right, make sure that you did a good job on your notes, and then turn them in, and bye.